Hello you, welcome back to the channel, where this week, this month, this video, we're going to be looking at...
Are you wearing that tie just to impress a literary agent?
Do you think he noticed?
He's probably going to notice you haven't bothered to put on a shirt.
Shirt's not clean. I'm not going to go on YouTube in front of a literary agent wearing a dirty shirt, am I? I don't want to look stupid.
This is what I want for the new jingle on my podcast. It's still called John Bolton's podcast. This time I'm gonna focus on my novel Time Unravelers. That's just a working title. Can you make the book sound awesome and make me sound awesome as well? And basically just doing awesome jingle. Let's not have a repeat of what happened last time. Bosh.
This episode is called Literary Agent, and the reason for that is because, as if the title hadn't given it away already, about 5 or 6 days ago I messaged an agent at an agency, obviously, in New York called Trident Media Group, and the agent I contacted was called Mark Gottlieb. Now, Mark Gottlieb is a very, very high-ranking, well-thought-of, successful literary agent. So I thought the chances of getting a reply pretty slim, because he's probably very busy. He's in New York. I've been to New York twice. There's a lot to do. Even if he's not working, there's lots of other stuff to do. To my amazement, he replied and said, "Yeah, great, happy to," which was really lovely. So thank you, Mark, if you're watching this. Don't know if you noticed the tie earlier that I was wearing. That's for you. And anyway, so he answered the question. So I thought, what's a reasonable number of questions to email to a total stranger? Probably 3, I reckon. If I condense the things that people have asked on Twitter down to 3 questions, that will do. In the end, I sent him 10 and got a reply back over the weekend. Mark, you answered those questions over the weekend. Thanks. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a title card, I think, for the questions, and then I'm going to sort of talk you through the answers. So hopefully this will be of use to anyone who happens upon it, but hopefully specifically the people who ask the questions will come and watch this and go, "Ah," or something along those lines. Something a bit less weird than that, ideally. So let's away with question 1. How do agents or publishers feel about work that has been published online? For instance, if a writer puts chunks of their work in progress on a blog, do you prefer material that has never been published previously in any format? So Mark's take on this, ultimately there's no problem with putting things on a blog. So the fact that you've put it on a blog doesn't, stand in your way particularly. Mark's attitude is that you should try and build your online presence. Try writing for well-known, respected publications, which could be anything, sort of magazines or periodicals or anything that publishes fiction or even non-fiction, if that's the direction you're going in. Because as well as helping to build an audience for you, it also provides a little bit of kind of provenance for you and for your skills and for your experience and for the fact that, look, I've written for publications, I've written for this, I've written for that. Clearly I'm not a complete novice. I'm not completely kind of wet behind the ears, I think. So basically anything that can build up your writing experience, your credentials, will kind of, because ultimately future agents and future publishers will probably look at that. So if you can show them evidence of having written for magazines or whatever it might be, other than just simply, I wrote this, I thought it was really good, I put it on my blog, therefore it's ace. If you can kind of prove that you've written to someone else's standards, that provides provenance for you as a writer. You can therefore prove, I can write. On the same theme, how do you feel about writers who have self-published their work, for example on Amazon, but are now considering the traditional publishing route. There isn't really any reason why, once you've self-published something, you couldn't then pursue getting it published traditionally at some future point. However, agents and publishers will look at the sales figures of that book to make a determination about whether it's worth taking on. And realistically, you need to have made tens of thousands of sales of that book for it to be credible, which is a lot. Added to that, the average sales in terms of a lifespan of a book is fewer than a dozen. And there's myriad reasons for that. Partly, sales of ebooks have just plateaued in recent years. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the marketplace is just so full. It's so saturated. Anybody now can write anything of any quality, good or bad, save it as a PDF, go onto Amazon, upload it, and it's out there. And because so many people, anybody really, can do that, the marketplace is awash with books. And so in order for you to be able to sway a publisher or an agent in terms of, oh, this book has already been published online on Amazon by the writer, but actually, yes, let's look at it, you need to have sold a lot to be able to prove that it's worth their while. And the flip side of that, of course, is that they are going to look at your track record. If you say to them, look, I've written this book, I've self-published it, it's only sold 10 copies on Amazon, it's been on there for a year, they're going to look at that and they might kind of question why that is. Is it just you didn't have the marketing machine behind you to push it out there? Or is it that the book
is one big pile of shit?
So it's worth keeping in mind. A self-published book that sells very few copies could stand against you because an agent will weigh that up. Do agents have any interest in social media followings? Does having a big Twitter following make you more marketable or even just more appealing? No. The things that you've written in the past and the sales that you've made and the followings that you have on social media, be it Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, that's your platform. When it comes to pitching non-fiction books, agents will be a little bit interested in the platform that you have, because ultimately it'll probably help sell books. Conversely, publishers of fiction aren't that bothered by it. It doesn't hurt, obviously. They're not going to look at you and go, oh no, you've got 100,000 followers. No thanks. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's down to the quality of your writing and the experience and the credentials that we've talked about. It's those things that make a difference. So ultimately, short answer, for non-fiction, yeah, a bit. For fiction, no. How should a writer choose an agent? How do we separate out the phenomenal agents from the bad ones, and what questions can we ask them to separate out the wheat from the chaff? Ultimately, what it comes down to is money talks. You need to find some agencies that you think are good for you, find out how many deals they're making, find out what kind of money is changing hands for those deals. Use a website like Publishers Lunch. There may be alternatives to that. That's the one that Mark recommends. Find out basically what agencies are doing. You know, if agencies aren't making deals, if agencies aren't bringing in money, they aren't doing anything, what's the point of submitting to them? You know, better off. Find an agency that you like the look of and look them up. Find out who their agents are, find out which authors they represent, find out what the sales looking like, read up on the agent, find out what their experience is. If they're not experienced in the area you want to write in, find one that is. You know, if you're writing middle grade fiction and you found an agent you really like the look of who specialises in like erotic adult fiction, probably not the best fit. I really hope not the best fit. Maybe they're looking to branch out, but that's quite a branching out. Mark's recommendation ultimately is to look at how an agent is performing. Look at their credentials. You know, you're selling yourself to them, but also they're selling themselves to you. It has to be a kind of two-way street. Find out what deals they're making. Find out how much money they're making on those deals. Find out how much money they're making for the writers in those deals. Read upon the agents. Scour their websites. Find out what their agents are about, what they're interested in, what kind of writers they're working with at the moment, what kind of deals and what kind of sales are happening there. Make an informed decision based on that. How many agents from different agencies is it recommended to query at any one time? So Mark's advice is to start with the top 10 best performing agencies in terms of the number of deals they're making, the amount of money that those deals are bringing in, and so on. Find that 10 and pitch at them. Don't pitch at more than one agent in any one agency, but there's no reason why you shouldn't pitch multiple agencies at any one time. And then ultimately, his recommendation is to work down from there, the top 10, then the next 10, then the next 10, then the next 10, and so on. Point of interest, Trident Media has been ranked the number 1 agency since 2004, year on year, in terms of deals and the amount of money made on deals. So Trident Media might be the one to think of first, or at least put him in that first 10 bracket. So that's part 1 of a 2-parter, because there were 10 questions and I feel like I should spread them out a little bit. It's just easier content making, ultimately. I mean, I could have made it 10 videos, so just be grateful for that. I am planning on doing a video around writing for magazines because I've got a fair amount of experience in that area. So if anyone does, who happens to see this, anyone does happen to have any questions about how that works, about how to do it, how to find magazines to write for, how to pitch to editors, how to negotiate terms, any of that sort of stuff, by all means, find me on Twitter or ask me in the comments or email me or whatever, and I'll do my best to answer those. My thanks again, huge thanks to Mark Gottlieb from Trident Media for taking the time out of his weekend to answer these questions. It's massively appreciated. So as I say, there'll be a part 2 coming up with questions 6 to 10, which include things like how to approach an agent, how to make yourself stand out, what to do if you get rejected, and so on. So do tune in for those. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.